All right, it looks like it's 1 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and start. We're excited for you to join us this afternoon to learn more about Rural Life's Network Improvement Community. I'm Brittany Sieber, the Communication Coordinator for Rural Life, and I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping first before handing it over to Bethany Fillers, our lead presenter. Right now, just ask again everyone to mute your mics, and during the session, don't hesitate to drop questions or comments in the chat. We'll have time to go over those at the end of the session. And at this point, I will go ahead and turn it over to Bethany.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are excited to see you this afternoon. Pretty pumped up. We were with our second group of Rural Life schools this morning. And so it's nice this afternoon to touch base with some of you from our first group of schools. And specifically around an opportunity to continue the work of Rural Life in your schools through an avenue called a Networked Improvement Community. Couple introductions. Dr. Richard Kitzmiller, our Vice President and leader for the Rural Life Project. I'm Bethany Fillers, the Director of Professional Learning. Also want to introduce John Payne. He is the man behind Zoom, helping us run this show, so we appreciate all his support and help as our Director of Technology and Innovation. And you've already met Brittany, our Communications and Dissemination. Please, at any point, do not hesitate to come off of mute and ask a question, use the chat feature. We don't have to be too formal here as we dig into learning more about this opportunity. A couple things about Zoom. I know many of us have been on Zoom more than we ever wanted to be, or thought we would be. But like Brittany said, your toolbar, which is usually located at the bottom of your Zoom screen, that's got your mic, it's got your video. We look at your faces if at all possible. And again, feel free to come off of mute at any point to ask a question.
Nope, there's knives over there. Get out.
You can exit out of full screen at any point by double clicking or hitting your escape button, and that way you can use some of the other windows on your computer. You can expand or minimize the participant window, whatever suits your needs as a participant. And also I want to draw everybody's attention to the chat feature. Again, we've mentioned that as a way to ask questions. And also at least a couple times in here, I have some reflection questions for us that I want us to either engage in that reflection as a group in the chat, or just unmute yourself and we can talk just like we would if we were kind of in person together. All right, so with that, one more reminder. Sometimes if you join the meeting from our website, it gives you the name John Scott. And if you want to rename yourself, if you'll just hover over your video box, the little box where your video shows up, you can find the 3 little dots and choose to rename yourself. You can also do that within the participant button on your toolbar. All right, with that, we will jump right on in. So, the intent of this call is to share more information about the Rural Life Networked Improvement Community, or Network of Champions. So this afternoon, we're going to look specifically at characteristics that define a Networked Improvement Community, the purpose of the Rural Life Network of Champions, or Networked Improvement Community. We're going to talk about our partners that are going to be in this work, one partner in particular that we're very excited about. We're going to look at the routines and activities that make up what happens in a Networked Improvement Community. And we're going to look at the application process and talk about some next steps. Okay, so to get us started, you hear the phrase Networked Improvement Community, and we're probably all pretty familiar with other types of learning communities, communities of practice, or really any group of learners that come together for a particular reason. A Networked Improvement Community is a very specific type of learning community. All right, and it's distinguished by 4 key characteristics. Networked Improvement Communities are focused on a well-specified common aim for the group as a whole. So in essence, everybody's working, kind of rowing in the same direction, working toward achieving a common aim. NICs are also guided by a deep understanding of the problem that they're seeking to solve. system that problem is situated within, and then some theory that they have as a learning community about how to solve that problem. You know, what's their theory of improvement? They are distinguished also by a disciplined approach to learning, and they use specific cycles of learning to push the work of the network forward and to reflect on what's happening across the different contexts represented in the network. So for us, that would be our different classrooms, our different schools, and our different districts. And leading into that, we're coordinated. As a network improvement community, the goal is that where possible, we are sharing our learning with each other. We're not having to reinvent the wheel, and we're really accelerating the group as a whole for the application of learning in our varied educational contexts. So again, that would be our classrooms, our schools, and across our districts. Specifically, network improvement communities are guided by the 6 core principles of improvement. And after we talk through these 6 core principles, I'm actually going to have you do a reflection, either out loud or in the chat, about what resonates with you, which of these principles resonates the most with you, and which one of these may be the hardest or seem like the trickiest for us in general. So first and foremost, network improvement communities are problem-focused and user-centered. And what that means is, you know, like we saw back on this slide, we are focused on a well-specified common aim, and we are guided by a deep understanding of the situation where that problem is contextualized. So for us, if we're thinking about improving middle school literacy, we're going to dig deep into that problem and try to explore as much as we can about that problem, and more specifically from the perspective of the user, right? So that's going to be the student, the teachers, right? Other staff in the school, the leadership. Could lead us into looking into parents, the community. So again, we're as user-centered as possible when we're working in a network improvement. And I love a quote from Einstein that said if he only had an hour to solve a problem, he would spend 55 minutes seeking to understand the problem. And I just think that's fascinating in general to hear that that's how Einstein thought about his work, but it's very similar to how a network improvement community works. Also, you know, network improvement communities attend to variability, right? And really it's that variation in performance that's the core issue to address for members of a network improvement community. So members seek to understand, one, what variation in performance is natural. You know, we're not all exactly the same. No classroom is exactly like another. No school is exactly like another. But network improvement communities also really focus their work and efforts on understanding what variation in performance is actually leading to the problem they're trying to solve. Similarly, our third principle is that network improvement communities see the system that produces the outcomes, okay? We're really, as a network improvement community, driven by desire to understand the impact system design has on system outcomes. And in this case, we're not using the word system to talk about a school system per se, although that is a type of system. A system is just the interaction of all the members, the processes, those environments. And so for a network improvement community, it's about understanding how the system might be contributing to the results. And this infamous quote from the network improvement community world and from improvement science that I think is so striking and a little bit of a gut punch is that every system is perfectly designed to get the results that it gets. And for NIC members, right, we're going to work hard to really understand why we, whether that's in a classroom or in a school setting or as a district, are getting the results that we're getting. All right, so next we're down at the bottom of this little wheel. Network improvement communities embrace measurement. And I love the adage that you can't improve what you can't measure. And so for us, we think about measurement in a network improvement community as being super user-friendly, and it's the type of data that you collect really close to the work. So this is data that reflecting in classrooms with students and with those teachers. And then we can surface up other data, such as school level data or district data. And we also look at other forms of data, but primarily we're looking at measurement or data for improvement purposes. All right, you heard me mention earlier that network improvement communities are disciplined with cycles of learning. And so we see here that we learn through disciplined inquiry, right? Learning is the primary focus of a network improvement community. And so we use a disciplined approach to guide these efforts. And then last but not least, of course, we're going to be organized as a network, right? As the name says. And really that's to accelerate that learning like we saw before. And we really place a premium on sharing learning, including our data, for the benefit of the community as a whole. All right, so with that, I want to get us, I've kind of talked at you for the last few minutes. I want to get us kind of interacting a little bit. Which of the 6 core principles resonates with you the most and why? And which one do you think may be the most challenging in our work and why? So you can drop reflections in the chat, or if I have a few brave folks out there who'd be willing to come off the mute and share with the group, that would be awesome too.
For me, one of the one that resonates with me the most is to learn through disciplined inquiry. As I was sharing with my coach actually yesterday, one of the things I got out of this the most was the learning, learning how to improve my instructional practices, learning how to analyze data. So that is the most exciting part of this for me, is to be able to grow and learn more as a teacher. Probably one of the most difficult, I think, for us will be seeing the system, being able to understand all of the moving parts that are leading to what we're seeing in the classroom. I think that finding that story behind the story can be difficult at times. So.
All right, thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your thoughts. I'm going to check the chat here if anybody's added anything there. Feel free again to share openly with the group.
In the chat, it looks like Denise McKee says, being problem focused, embracing measurement, learning through disciplined inquiry. I agree about seeing the system as a challenge.
Thank you, Denise and Sarah. How about one more? Any other reflections?
Bethany, I'm going to go off script here, and as the principal at Cloudland High School say, I just appreciate all Niswonger has done to keep the first treatment school group, the phase 1 group, involved, especially the meeting yesterday about the grants, and then we're also up for that next treatment that Dr. Bells is in charge of. But I think being problem focused and user centered is probably, something that really sticks out to us, because I think that's easy if we stay student centered or user centered. But I do agree that seeing the system is probably the most difficult. So we just appreciate Niswonger and all you all continue to do.
Well, we first appreciate the sentiment there, and you're right. I think as educators, we seek daily to be focused on the student, and sometimes it's hard to kind of zoom out and really see the effect that the system is having on the overall outcome that we're getting. All right, let's move on then to really the purpose of the Rural Life Network Improvement Community. So for us, we want to establish a community of learners, really made up of individuals who will champion, hence our name, the challenging and rewarding work of improving student outcomes in this middle school literacy classroom, right? This middle school setting. And also, knowing that we're headed into, we're adopting new curricular materials, and we're jumping into the year where we seek to put those into place, provide participants with a community of support focused on learning about those materials and figuring out how best to incorporate those into our context. So, that's going to take some much needed support. I mean, even the best curriculum is only as good as its implementation. We can buy a curriculum or any kind of program and throw it into the mix, But really adopting those new materials requires teachers and leaders not only to understand them and really understand the process that they're being asked to use with those materials, but also, deliver those lessons with integrity, also creativity, right? That opportunity for some autonomy and to know your kids and to make some of those decisions as a teacher, but also with high expectations that really live up to the expectations of the standards and where we want all of our students to be able to be as they move forward from grade to grade. And for middle school, as they get ready to transition into the high school. So, hey, cue the learning community, right? We know this is not easy work. And we thought, could it be possible to provide a community of support around this? And this is our intent with the Network of Champions. So our focus within the Network of Champions will be to set a vision, right? And really collectively work toward achieving high quality, rigorous instruction in that middle school environment. And that's going to include digging into some learning around cultivating a culture of learning in the classroom, maximizing instructional time, thinking about those new materials that we have in front of us, also thinking about our schedule, thinking about some other system factors that may be impacting that instructional time. Truly pursuing high quality instruction, not just for some students, but for all, and then how we scaffold all students to meet those high expectations. And then also fostering increasing levels of student ownership for learning. All right, so another chance to share either in the chat or to unmute yourself and just share openly based on what you've learned so far about the Network of Champions and our intent, and then what it means to be a part of a network improvement community. What excites you about the potential of this type of collaborative learning model?
Bethany, if I may.
Yes.
One thing that I'm really excited about is I'm kind of by myself. I'm the only 6th grade English teacher in my school, so I think it'll be really nice to be able to collaborate with other teachers, maybe not in just 6th grade, but in general. And I don't know, just see what other people are thinking.
Kara, thank you so much for sharing that. And truly, part of being a rural life is recognizing that we are in rural settings, and we have lots of schools with teachers who are just like you, right? You're the only one. You make up, the department, and we've got some teachers, teaching multiple grades as well. So yes, this is that opportunity to get with others in the school and with outside of your school across some. Put your heads together and engage in learning and support.
Thank you, and I'm sorry. My dog evidently wanted to talk on the chat as well. So.
Hey, more than barrier. Bring him on. All right. Anybody else want to share what kind of has you excited about the potential of this type of community?
It looks like a few folks have shared in the chat. Let's see. Richard said continuing to learn from each other and to have that support and leveraging best practices across our region. Let's see. Denise, networking with other systems to achieve high quality, rigorous instruction in that setting.
I think what's exciting too from the coaching perspective is being able to, with confidence, look at instructional practice and be able to connect it to know what helps kids improve their outcomes and their belief about what they can do. So I'm always looking to how can I make my bag of tricks bigger? So it's kind of nice to be a part of something that's going to help us identify those high leverage practices together.
Thank you, Sarah. I like what Megan shared. I like the idea of working with disciplines other than ELA in order to foster this need for high quality, rigorous instruction. Thank you, Megan. While the intent of this community is focused on ELA and that support around the adoption of materials, there's so much about this work that will be transferable to other disciplines. And there'll be many opportunities for us to consider how we do that, how we work with other teachers across the other disciplines. So I love that you surfaced that. And, Deborah had something similar to say, to work with other teachers and to pass along what we have used that works. Yes, how often are we struggling and just trying to reinvent the wheel when if we only had a chance to talk to a fellow educator down the road or in a another school or district? So that's the beauty of being a part of a networked improvement community. Alrighty, with that, who will provide some much needed expertise to guide our work? We are excited to share that TNTP, a national partner with many states and districts, will be partnering with us centrally around the core learning for the network improvement community about what high quality instruction looks like in the middle school setting. They are going to be our partner to help us set a vision for what that looks like. You know, TNTP's mission is to end injustice of educational inequality. You know, for them, it's about ensuring that all students have access to rigorous instruction and that their needs are met. And, you know, for them, you know, they started out back in 1997 as the New Teacher Project, TNTP. But since their founding, their work has just really expanded. And now they provide national support outside of just the realm of new teachers to focus on ensuring rigorous academics, which is right in line with our intent here with this improvement community, really cultivating talent and educators. But that's where the power is, the teacher in the classroom. And then to also provide supportive environments. So to several of us who mentioned understanding the system, right, that plays a role, that's critical there as we think about those supportive environments. So you can see a map here of TNTP's work across the nation. The individual blue dots represent school, district, or charter management organizations that they support. But then you can also see they have quite an extensive portfolio supporting statewide or state Department of Education work. And that includes Tennessee. In fact, in a previous role that I was in, as the Director of Improvement for a network improvement community for the Tennessee Department of Education, that's how I came to know TNTP. So, you know, TNTP brings a wealth of experience, as you could see from that map, across district, state, and national levels, really focused on helping systems create a shared vision, really build knowledge and skills, all to support delivering on that vision and for students to ultimately succeed. I believe Brittany dropped in the chat a link for you if you want to explore some case studies that TNTP has written that tie to some of the work that they've done across the nation, including Tennessee. Feel free to access that resource. Also, you know, TNTP has worked closely with district partners across Tennessee, and I think that's really exciting. They know our context, and their work has been to help bring strong materials to life in Tennessee classrooms. In fact, they bring a wealth of expertise in many of the instructional materials that our districts have been, you know, that are adopting currently, including Expeditionary Learning, Amplify, Wit and Wisdom, Louisiana Guidebooks through LearnZillion. Also across the country, supported Pearson, Benchmark, McGraw-Hill, Wiley. They just have quite a lot of experience in supporting this very work. All right, so any thoughts or questions about our partnership with TNTP before we move to thinking about key routines and activities? Well, all righty, if something pops up, don't hesitate to drop it in the chat, or we'll have some time at the end to also talk more broadly about questions you may have. All right, so what about the routines? What kind of routines and activities are we going to be engaged in as an improvement community? So specifically, our routines are in line with those guiding principles that we explored earlier, right? Central to the routines will be that members of the NIC will articulate a problem to solve or a task to accomplish. We'll really spend some time seeking to better understand what's currently happening within the system or within our context. We'll develop theories together, like about how we think we can improve upon whatever problem that we've surfaced that we want to solve. We'll test changes. We'll roll our sleeves up, we'll get in classrooms, we'll get in our schools, and we'll test some changes for improvement. We're going to lean in on some data, but this could be friendly data, friendly measurement for improvement to help us see if what we're trying is actually having an impact on student learning. And then we'll take that learning and we'll revise and refine our theories, and we'll share our learning with others, which several of you mentioned was so important to you. And then we'll hit the repeat button. And we'll keep doing that over and over again. And that's the beauty of really that learning cycle, that discipline cycle that resonated with some of you. This is the heart of what a networked improvement community does. All right, we can couch those routines in network activities. And this graphic, you know, nothing fancy, but I do think it shows a good overview of NIC activities and just how they coordinate and complement the learning, which is at the heart of a networked improvement community. So we'll pull together as a whole community at different times, and that's represented by that blue box that says network meeting. And really between the network meetings, so at the meeting, we'll engage in some collective learning around what good, strong instruction looks like in the middle school setting. We'll dig into those instructional materials and seek to understand them better and how to use them. But in between those learning sessions that we're together, we're going to jump into some testing cycles, right? We're going to pull together and we're going to do some reflection. And we're going to think about some planning that needs to happen. We're going to collect some small-scale data. We're going to consolidate our learning. We're going to share with each other what we're learning. And all of this will just cycle through coming together as a whole group, going back out into our individual classrooms and schools, doing all this learning, coming back together as a whole group, so on and so on. So again, it's our routines and our activities that make up the heart of the work of a network improvement community. All right, with that, we can transition to thinking about the application and some next steps. So what does this process include? The application will include 3 sections. One will just be the basic district and school team information, who wants to be a part of the networked improvement community. The second part is tied to some short answer responses around member expectations, and we're going to look at those in just a minute. And then the last section is really just an acknowledgement of the expectations for those who are part of the networked improvement community. All right, so first, district and school team. So ideally, you know, we kind of have an ideal team in our mind, but we anticipate district and school team configurations to vary, and that's okay. But we can kind of envision an ideal team is including ELA teachers, right, from a school or district, the principal. If there's a district or school coach, I know some of you don't have that, and that's okay, we understand. But if so, it'd be amazing to have that coach involved. And then also a district supervisor. Because remember, networked improvement communities seek to understand the system, right? It's about the users. So here we're pulling from across all these roles and these perspectives to help support the work. Again, we know that not every team might be configured in that way, but that just gives you an idea of some that we're thinking about. So next in the application, we're going to talk about member expectations and some reflections on these expectations. So at this time, I would love to kind of just popcorn read these expectations. So could I have some brave voices out there, either some of our school folks or even some of our coaches here within Rural Life, to help me popcorn read the expectations from the Network of Champions. Who wants to kick us off with committed to solving?
I will, Bethany.
Thank you.
Committed and members of the Network of Champions are committed to solving a targeted problem, commitment to drastically improving in the identified area in your district, school, or classroom.
Thank you.
Invested in the work, ability to invest the time and fully commit to the process, including evidence of a thoughtful plan for how the district school educator will make space for this work.
Thank you, Brittany. All right, and we have 3 on this slide. Who can kick us off with willing to innovate?
Willing to innovate, evidence of a willingness to innovate and try new things in an effort to improve student outcomes.
Thank you.
Eager to learn, eagerness to openly collaborate with peers and learn alongside other districts, schools, educators, openness to learning, failing, and growing, including humility, and a will to reflect on the successes and failures of your team's work.
And lastly, optimistic.
Optimistic. Belief that all students can reach higher levels of academic achievement and that in collaboration with colleagues, we can and will help students meet their potential.
Thank you all for putting up with me as I made you popcorn read those. But truly, in a network improvement community, these expectations are so important. And as part of the application, we're going to ask you to reflect, really each member of that team to reflect on each of these expectations for yourself. All right, lastly, the last section will be an acknowledgement of expectations. So we know, as you've seen, that, to be a part of a network improvement community, it's such rewarding work, but it is work, right? We're not going to make any bones about it. So, when you make a commitment to the community, you're making a commitment to the routines and the activities that make up the work and what will drive the learning of the community as a whole. With that in mind, we will have stipends provided to members of the Network of Champions, provided that members attend to the work of the community and engage deeply with our partners and each other. So teachers, really, you are the heart of this work, right? You are going to be the ones in classrooms with students, digging into these instructional materials, really playing out this vision for what high quality instructional practices look like in this middle school setting. So the stipend here will be similar to what teachers in that first round of Rural Life received. So for our district and school leaders, we do know that this will be some work on your end too, as you're a part of the work of the network improvement community. Our goal too, especially through our partner TNTP, is to also really support school leaders and district leaders in scaling some of the learning that you learn here around the adoption of the ELA materials to other areas, to either future adoption processes, or when we're thinking about vision setting, how can you translate that vision setting to other content areas? And also scale the learning that our ELA teachers have in this network to some needs that you might see with your other content area teachers. So our anticipated timeline includes an application window. We know that if you were on our call yesterday with the sustainability grants, that application launched yesterday. So giving a little bit of a buffer between those. But we see really the early part of July as the application window for the network improvement community. So you'll be receiving some correspondence about that shortly. We'll do a review on our end and notify teams of their selection in early August. And we anticipate our first convening of this Network of Champions in September. And I did make a note that, this community is going to jump right into learning. And hopefully that will happen in person. We do, however, have plans to support this learning virtually if needed. I know we're all, it's a little ambiguous at times to think about what the start of school will look like, but we do anticipate moving forward with this community, whether in person or virtually. Guys, in the end, being a part of any community takes commitment, right? There's hard work, there's dedication involved. And I love these quotes. The one in the center, most people fail not because of a lack of desire, but because of a lack of commitment. And in this case, we're going to be a community of individuals, all committed to each other, and more importantly, committed to the middle school students across our region. And I love what Abraham Lincoln said, commitment is what transforms a promise into reality, right? A promise that any middle school student in our region has a high quality instruction provided to them. In this case, how do we turn that into a reality and move our state from sitting at about 30% proficient and advanced to 100%, right? Let's have a big goal that all students will be successful. Alrighty, at this point, let's just open up to some questions, comments, and we'll do our best to get them answered for you.
Bethany, there are a couple of chat questions.
Okay.
The first one, is this for the teachers who are involved in the grant phase 1?
Yes, this is support. This is support for the schools that were involved in the first round of Rural Life.
Okay. And then
Just a second, John. Just a second, please. But remember Bethany's earlier slide, it's for the teachers in the schools in phase 1, but also the central office folks who support them. So it is not exclusively teachers. It's for the school leaders and or the district leaders that are supporting the work in the phase 1 schools.
Okay.
I'll add too that I could see a world where, we know that some of you may have staffing changes. And so if you have a new teacher who's now teaching, 7th grade ELA and you want them to be a part of this work, I could see that would be totally fine. Or if maybe the coaching support at your school in the past was maybe more focused toward a particular grade level and not all of your middle school ELA teachers, for example, were really engaged in that, but you see a need for that here, I think that would be acceptable as well.
Okay. Second question, how many members can be in a single network improvement community?
Ooh, so the whole community can be pretty large. I've worked with communities that have, hundreds of people in them. If this question is more about being a part of a team, I think we're open to seeing what you put in your application. I think on your end, for the leaders that are a part of that district or school team, really being cognizant of how you'll support the number of teachers on your team as well will be something you want to consider.
But there will be an upper limit on what we can accommodate with our funding and with our plans with NTTP. So there will be an upper limit, and it will not be in the hundreds, like Bethany just said.
Just a capacity on our side. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Kitzmiller.
I have a comment and overall question.
Thanks, Richard.
Contextually, could this come at a better time? A network that we can support each other with in this realm of what I term to be disruptive ingenuity. Could this actually come at a better time for us when we really need to support each other as we have new ELA materials and are looking, most of us all, at some model of distance learning and strengthening distance learning? I just have to say this, I knew this was coming anyway, but could this really come at a better time? And I appreciate that, and we look forward to applying, but the timing is even more impressive now.
Thank you. Any other thoughts or questions? While we're considering, I'll just share that, much like our other sessions, we'll be posting this presentation and this recording to our Virtual Summer Institute website. And then we'll send broadly out to the members of that first cohort of schools information as we get closer to the start of July about the application. So just be watching for some communication about the official launch of that application.
Okay. Bethany, there's another question that just appeared in chat. Okay. Mm-hmm. It says, so piggybacking off Sarah Reimer's question, could we have 2 or 3 lead teachers, like 1 per grade level?
If I understand the question right, let me see if I can give an example. So for example, if in your school, there's a 6th grade ELA teacher, a 7th grade ELA teacher, and 8th grade ELA teacher. Yes, I think in your application, you could submit that all 3 would be a part of this community. Great question.
Okay, another question's popped in. Okay. It says, I would to clarify, this application is different from the one that was emailed yesterday from that meeting.
Great question. Yes, to clarify. So yesterday was specifically about individual school sustainability grants. And then this opportunity is to be a part of an improvement community. And so that application will be a separate application from the sustainability grant. Two kind of paths to continue to have rural life support. Just think about which one best meets your needs. Dr. Kitzmiller, I have a question that maybe somebody wants to ask but maybe hasn't yet. Is there a world where a school could receive a sustainability grant and be a part of the network improvement community?
Yes.
I like it.
How's that for an answer? No, but I think the difference is the sustainability grants are more to help an individual school continue down their path with things and coaching, and that could be independent of that. I mean, it would certainly be consistent with the process, but this one is more, as Richard Church said, you know, the huge adoption of ELA materials, even in normal times, would be a challenge for schools to absorb and to implement as designed, especially if you add in then the element of uncertainty. There are a lot of things that we can learn from each other, and there's no reason that 15 school districts should each be out there struggling together on implementing it if we can work together. So one of them is more of a school focus, and the other is the work in our school as it relates to the work of every other school, and we can learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
We have another question, and this one is some clarification on stipends for teachers. It says, will there be stipends for teachers involved?
Yes, so we communicated that for teachers, it would be $2,000. Mm-hmm.
And Bethany, it looks like April Cody has her virtual hand up.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I like it. Hey, April, question?
Hey, Bethany, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. My question is, I'm texting Jordan at the same time I'm doing this meeting.
Oh, fun. Yes.
So, in the phase 1 with the teacher supplements, is that gone? Are for the teacher leaders that part is gone, right?
Yes, that part's over as we transition to more officially support that second group of schools.
Okay, right, all right, okay. So if the ELA teachers like Jordan is not going to teach ELA, they're going to team teach this year, and Courtney is going to be doing the ELA part. So you're saying that our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, because I do have them departmentalized, they each could apply if they wanted to be a part of the network?
Yes, you could put them in the application, and we could look at, some of that may be kind of a case-by-case basis, but right. if they're going to be an ELA teacher implementing those materials, yes, they could be a part of this network.
And you do know we went to Amplify, right?
Oh, yes, I heard. That's exciting.
So yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, April. Great question. Dr. Kitzmiller?
And for everyone on here, if everyone on here applies, and if 2 or 3 friends of theirs apply, and if word gets around and others apply, it is quite likely that this will be a very competitive process. And we want to tell people up front that we are looking for more than, it is not an individual judgment that we're making on people. We'll be looking for a combination of people and a team of people that can make this network community go. So it is quite possible that we will have to decline the applications of some very good, hardworking people that have great potential. But we do we do think that the makeup of it as a team and we'll be looking at the composition as a team, not just selecting a group of all-stars. So hope everyone understands that that if someone is selected, it doesn't mean that we value them more than the others. And if someone is declined, if their application is declined, it doesn't mean we think any less of them. We'll be looking for a unique team, and it hopefully will be obvious to us, but it may not be obvious to everyone out there. But we will do our best to include as many good folks and try to get as good a network and improvement community as we possibly can.
I have a question, just for clarification. How exactly will we be grouped? Will we be grouped with other schools or other districts? I'm just trying to get full picture here. I hope that makes sense.
It does, Kara. As a whole, we will be grouped as a community, and there are certain things we will do as an entire community, such as learning provided by TNTP, for example, on what good high-quality instruction looks like, right? But there will be times when we are planning and anticipate that we will kind of divvy up into subgroups within the community. And really the connector there will be on the instructional resources that your team has adopted. So we can see a time and space where all those using Amplify will be a part of a little community within the larger community. Those using, Pearson, a little community within the larger community. So there'll be some opportunities for a kind of whole group and then some smaller groups depending on the resources that you've adopted. Just to kind of get more specific about those individual resources and to give you all a chance to talk specifically about those items in front of you.
Bethany, please use your quote from Martin Luther King this morning to help elaborate on that answer. So we don't necessarily know.
Yeah. Let me pull it back out. I still have my notes over here.
If you need.
The idea that, yes, faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase.
So none of us yet know, Kara, what groupings we'll make. We don't know what problems we'll attack. We just know that we'll be attacking some problems that bubble to the top based on our current situation, our current needs.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No, great, Kara. And one of my favorite expressions that we use within network improvement communities is that we're learning our way to improvement, right? And a lot of that you figure out as a network improvement community. You really have to, in some ways, be able to embrace some ambiguity at first as we all kind of work our way into what this will look like for us as a group based on what our needs will ultimately be once we've got the membership set. All right, so we're down to about 12 minutes left on the hour. And our team is willing to stay around and answer questions, but there's nothing else on our end, or at least for me. Dr. Kisnell, anything else from you before we can open it up for people to either hang on or exit out?
No, I don't think I have any closing remarks. I've already spoken more than I meant to.
Bethany, let me throw one thing out there. I have posted a link to our evaluation survey. We would covet anybody's feedback. If you need credit for this session, be sure to fill it out so I can send you the certificate later this evening. But if you don't, we would still ask that you would take just a minute and just fill out the survey just so we can learn from that as well. It's fairly simple to do, and about a minute or so is all it takes to fill it out. We would appreciate it.
Thank you, John. All right, on that note, feel free to exit out or feel free to hang on if you have some specific questions you want to ask. And just be looking, watching your email for some updates about next steps for this network improvement community opportunity.